Namaste. I welcome each one of you today in the name of life, in the name of this vast process of learning that we call life, where each one of you as students are drinking and partaking of tremendous lessons directly from Shri Amma and Shri Bhagavan. And this week we are continuing with the chapter we call health. Obama was crowned the president of US, and one of my friends showed me a very interesting piece on the internet. This was a very interesting projection, actually very interesting projection of how Obama would look 2 years from now or 4 years from now if he continued to be the president. And this was based on what they had studied of Bush. And this was called the aging of the president. They were very graphically depicting how Bush looked before he had become the president, on the day of becoming the president, and 2 years down the line, how his face had developed wrinkles and his hair had grayed. Remarkable difference. That is, a tremendous aging process has occurred just in a period of 2 years' time. Infer from this, what do you infer? That is, people can take on almost 10 years of hard physical work, but then the body and health are tremendously affected even with 10 days of emotional strain. The strain and the effect, the negative effect that emotions seem to leave on the body seem to far exceed the impact of hard physical work. What does Shri Bhagavan have got to say this week to all of us on the issue of the emotional dimension of health? Let us listen and behold Shri Bhagavan giving us this message.
Emotional distress is increasing so fast that by 2020 it is predicted to outrank AIDS, accidents and violence as the primary cause of early death and disability. You should not live with emotions of depression, anxiety, sadness and irritability that are interfering with your natural capacity to enjoy life. Most emotional imbalances have been found to be the result of unmet nutritional needs, malfunctions in our brain-body chemistry, and unquestioned perceptions. Science has shown today that every emotion has a corresponding chemical reaction happening in the brain. When you experience emotions like fear or stress, the hypothalamus releases chemicals and complex amino acids called neuropeptides, which thereafter are pumped into the bloodstream via the pituitary. These neuropeptides reach the various organs through the blood. They reach the cells and get locked up in the cell receptors. Once this happens, these cells become immune to any form of nutrition and nourishment. These cells further multiply to create similar unhealthy cells. That is why people with prolonged rundown emotions often prove their doctor's failures. No medication or treatment works for them. The body by nature has been designed for experiences such as ecstasy, love and bliss. And it also knows fear and the struggle for survival. Owing to several challenges, we are only triggering that chemistry of the brain that deals with emotions such as fear, loneliness and frustration. The result is that your brain gets exhausted and brings forth an imbalance of transmitters and hormones in the limbic system. Hence you become emotionally reactive. However, it is possible to activate those parts of the brain that deal with love, skill, and solutions. Research on Deeksha is now revealing that Deeksha is activating certain areas of the brain that would not otherwise get affected even after years of meditation. Deeksha is proving to be a very powerful tool in returning the body to a complete state of health and the mind to a state of relaxation and rest.
The message is self-evident. However, I will be explaining to you a little bit on each one of the sentences uttered by Sri Bhagavan. Sri Bhagavan gave us a prediction, a scientific prediction that is likely to happen in the year 2020. Sri Bhagavan said that scientists today world over are saying that in the year 2020, people are likely to die and become unhealthy much more because of stress and strain emotionally than they would because of violence, because of AIDS, and because of any other physical reason. That is, look at civilization, look at society as we have structured it today. We can see the impact of stress on everybody, beginning with a little child to an old person. The aged are stressed out, they're worried, emotionally turbulent lives. Why? Because they're imagining, what would my condition be 10 years from now, or 5 years from now, or even today? Will my children take care of me? Will my health be taken care of? These are the questions of the aged. This is the stress of the aged. And what about the stress that children are going through? Little children carrying sacks of books and then going to schools which are dumping them with knowledge and information which their tiny little brains are still not prepared to cope with. And each one of us are torturing our children in the name of homework, in the name of achievement. Babies being tortured in the name of achievement. Imagine the stress that is falling on them. Sri Bhagavan told us just now that if things continued in the same vein, then by the time it is 2020, a lot of people would die, a lot of people would become physically incapacitated, not because of the big diseases, but because of the biggest disease that we could call stress and emotional turbulence. What else did Sri Bhagavan tell us today? To telling us that we should not be continuing with emotions of depression, anxiety, sadness, and irritability, because these emotions are interfering with our capacity to live and enjoy life. So many of us are prone to irritation on an hourly basis, leave alone on a daily basis. So many of us are prone to depression, and we've been continuing with this emotional depression for more than 20 years, 15 years, 7 months. Bhagavan says you better get out of them fast. But why at all these emotional imbalances? Sri Bhagavan is giving us 3 reasons for these emotional imbalances. Primarily, unmet nutritional needs. Wow, this is a relief, because so many of us have thought that our psychological problems, that our emotional problems only have psychological origins, and therefore we are trying to constantly work on our minds. Bhagavan is saying that your emotional problems could also be because of improper nutrition, that is improper food. Do you know that latest scientific research shows that children who are prone to a lot of anger, irritability, and children who are hyperactive are partly because they're eating too much of chocolate. Eating too much of chocolate could be causing these problems. How else could you separate your children if you're not going to work on their food? Coming to you, even adults. If you have to have balanced emotions, then you have to have a balanced nutritional diet. And then Sri Bhagavan goes on to saying, malfunctions in our brain-body chemistry. That is, the brain and the body are one solitary unit. Whenever in this interaction there is improper functioning, then again Sri Bhagavan says it is likely that people have imbalanced emotions. And the third reason Sri Bhagavan says are unquestioned perceptions. Unquestioned perceptions. life or the human brain as it is structured, it observes anything, automatically comes to conclusions, automatically comes to perceptions. But then we assume that all our perceptions are true, all our perceptions are right. Let us say we have a perception. Hey, the future is going to be so dreary, there's no point working hard. This economic recession is never going to move back. It's an unquestioned perception. Or if you thought, my earnings are going to be less and consequently my family members are going to love me less, that's an unquestioned perception. This way, we all have a lot of unquestioned perceptions. Bhagavan says, whenever your perceptions are not inquired into, whenever you do not question your perceptions, it is likely that you are bound to have health problems because of your imbalanced emotions. Sri Bhagavan is explaining what exactly happens whenever we give in to negative emotions. Bhagavan says that whenever you have fear, anxiety, hurt, sadness or sorrow, there are certain reactions taking place in the brain. Without these reactions in the brain, the body and the mind cannot sustain these emotions, says Sri Bhagavan. Where are these reactions happening? In that part of the brain which we call the hypothalamus. In the hypothalamus, whenever you have anger, whenever you have fear, there are certain reactions happening, chemical reactions happening. And these chemical reactions are giving rise to certain complex amino acids called the neuropeptides. Fear releases a particular amino acid, anger releases a particular amino acid, depression releases a particular amino acid, and these amino acids called the neuropeptides thereafter, by the pituitary, enter into the bloodstream. And the blood, you know, rushes into the various organs of the body, and every organ has its own cells. And every cell has tiny antenna called the cell receptors. And these neuropeptides go to these cells, go to these cell receptors and actually get locked up in these cell receptors. When they get locked up in the cell receptors, thereafter, Sri Bhagavan said just now to us that that particular cell becomes immune to every form of nutrition and nourishment, which means what? It has closed its doors to any medicine you're going to give it. It has closed its doors to any kind of nutrition or nourishment you're going to give it. And then what happens? Cells are not sitting quiet. These cells further multiply. When they multiply, they are going on to create similar cells which are actually alive but yet dead. They are unhealthy cells that are born. What did Sri Bhagavan say? Bhagavan said, people who give into this kind of emotional upheavals, gradually what happens is they acquire so many diseases. They go to the best of doctors, but even the best of doctors cannot cure them. They tend to prove every doctor a failure because of their emotions. Sri Bhagavan also says that the body is not only designed for fear and anxiety, but it's also designed for ecstasy, bliss, love, excitement, passion, various other emotions and feelings that can really nurture you. But unfortunately, given our strange circumstances, given our civilizational crises, we've often triggered only these emotions that are stressful. And consequently, the brain has learned to become imbalanced. Last week we heard Sri Amma say that the human body is more like a baby. And you get used to some particular emotion, it will continue in the same emotion. You get your body used to fear, your brain goes on secreting the same chemicals. You get it used to love and ecstasy, your brain would naturally secrete the same kind of chemicals that would support these exhilarating emotions.
Once such experience that I would like to share with you all is that there was a therapy based on the emotions that you have in your life. How does it affect your body and your entire life? I do get angry in certain situations of life, but then I've never realized that this anger has got inbuilt in me so much that it has always been increasing throughout my entire life. In fact, there were two instances with a few of my friends during my graduation time, wherein I had few misunderstandings with them, and then the relationship had got a little disturbed, and we were never so free again as we were actually before, though we were maintaining the relationship. I thought I'm completely out of that experience and I've actually forgiven them and we are going on. But then there was always this conflict within me regarding, this particular experiences and these people in my life. After coming here and after getting into the process of that emotional therapy, and when actually this process was like, to experience all these emotions through your body, and I never realized when my body just started, experiencing the entire anger. It actually showed out the entire anger that was within me, and also the friends or the people on whom I had such anger. It was very beautiful to actually, experience the entire anger. I could actually completely forgive them wholeheartedly, and right after that I could get back to them and I could talk to them just the way I used to before. I've actually realized that I've gained back those relationships and I have no more conflict within me. That was the greatest experience that I had got from this course. Like that, I had many other beautiful experiences with the grace of Amma and Bhagavan, and I'm really grateful for attending this course. Thank you.
And then Bhagavan goes on to saying that it is possible to activate those parts of the brain, the positive aspects of the brain, if you dealt with love, if you dealt life with love, with skill and with solutions. However, the greatest solution, Sri Bhagavan says, is Deeksha. The greatest solution to deal with emotional imbalances, to deal with stress, is Deeksha. World over today, Deeksha is known as the oneness blessing, and in India as Deeksha. You must know that Deeksha is essentially the power that Sri Amma and Sri Bhagavan have generated in their consciousness with years of tapas, more than 28 years of tapas and sadhana, and tremendous amount of compassion for humanity is what has led to the birth of Deeksha. And Amma and Bhagavan's tapas continues even till this date. Whenever they meet a devotee, whenever they meet a seeker, and they see the struggling and suffering of the seeker, Amma and Bhagavan vow again. They decide, they take a sankalpa again that this particular individual must be helped. When they see people struggling, they decide that people are not able to help themselves beyond a point, and it is there that their grace and their power must intercede. That in fact is the source and the origin of Deeksha. And Deeksha today is being experimented in labs. People at the universities, world-renowned universities, are experimenting. Dr. Newberg and various other scientists are today experimenting with Deeksha. They're researching into Deeksha. And one of the things that we are discovering is that during Deeksha, certain parts of the brain are getting active, which would not get active even if meditation were to be practiced for decades. After decades of meditation also, these parts of the brain will not get active, which through a Deeksha are getting activated. And Deeksha has been found today to bring about a tremendous balance emotionally and to impact the limbic system of the brain. Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, Amma and Bhagavan have trained Deeksha givers world over. Mahadiksha is a unique process that happens in the Oneness University where seekers are coming to partake of this blessing. Amma and Bhagavan have generated this power of Deeksha and have handed it over to the Mahadiksha devotees. So today, as the Mahadiksha devotees are giving Deekshas to people, Amma and Bhagavan's grace is flowing through them and impacting the neurochemistry of the receiver. Why not you too partake in the Mahadiksha? Participate in the Mahadiksha and get elevated in terms of your consciousness. Experience what it is to have an expanded state of consciousness, what it is to experience reality as it is. Go ahead. And if you're a seeker, Mahadiksha is the place you should be in whichever place you are, in your vicinity, there is a person who has received Mahadiksha from the Manas University. Approach them and take Deeksha from them for a period of 1 week. Every day, go and take Deeksha from them. If you receive Deeksha from a Mahadiksha participant, I tell you, for a week continuously, definitely your emotional disturbances would subside. Consequently, your health also would improve. So go ahead, and we will be giving you some of the phone numbers of each district. You could contact that phone number and find out who the Mahadiksha person is in your vicinity. Go to them and receive the Deeksha. So, see you again next week. Until then, Namaste.
Namaste, Namaste, Vibho Vishwamurte. Namaste, Namaste, Chidanandamurte. Namaste, Namaste, Tapoyoganamya. Namaste, Namaste, Shruti-Jnanagamya. Namaste.